let me introduce to you this distinguished panel. Let me start off with the Mayor of Miami-Dade County, Carlos Jimenez. Michael Zito is the General Manager and Executive Director of Smart Cities AT&T Business Solutions. And Larry Williams is your moderator, and he is the President and CEO of the Beacon Council. Please welcome your panel.
Thank you, Val. Thank you so much. I think it's good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time. We're going to have, I think, a very interesting conversation about smart city, smart regions, how this technology is really transforming the way that we can improve our cities, improve our regions, how we can deliver better services to the people. And I think what we really want to talk about is how it really is meeting the real world, how it really bring it down to the residents and how this can improve their lives. So I think we have a great conversation here with two great experts. And so, Mayor, if I may, I'd like to begin with you.
Sure.
And you have embraced this type of concept since I've known you, and I think well before. And as I hear you talk and interact, you think a lot about how we can leverage smart technologies in general, to improve the lives of all of the residents, how you can better deliver service, how you can better reach people, how you can save money. Can you talk a little bit about how you envision Miami-Dade really leveraging technology to improve the lives and deliver better service?
There's a whole range of things that that we have embraced in terms of technology. You know, one of the major things that I have to do, one of my biggest jobs, my most important jobs, is public safety. And so we're going to be leveraging technology in order to allow our residents to engage more in their own safety. And so one of the things that I like to say is that it takes all of us to make sure to protect all of us. And what that means is that, you know, we have about 3,000 police officers in the Miami-Dade Police Department, but they can't be everywhere at all the time. And so in order for us to really be the safest city in the world, which is what our goal is to be, we need the 2.7 million residents of Miami-Dade to be engaged in their own safety, but also engaged in the safety of others. So we're looking at launching different applications that allow our residents to become engaged with our police department to make sure that we are the safest city in the world, that it doesn't pay to do a crime in Miami-Dade because we'll catch you, or actually we'll stop you before you even do it because we've got 2.7 million people that are engaged. We need technology in order to improve the quality of our life in terms of, you know, the transit. Now, I was here earlier when BPAC was doing the thing about India and China, and I'm certainly glad we're not China in terms of what our transportation problems are going to be. But we are the seventh most congested area in the United States, and we're looking for technology and a number of different technologies to be able to help us to become less congested. Because what does that do? It improves the quality of life of our residents of Miami-Dade, but also improves the viability of Miami-Dade for economic purposes, because time is money. And so the less that time that we take ourselves moving us around to where we want to go improves our quality of life, but also makes us more productive. The less time it takes to move our products in and out of Miami-Dade County, again, it takes less time, and that's money. It makes us more competitive. And so we're looking, those are just two of the areas that we're looking in terms of technology to help us. And I believe that the change is coming a lot faster than people think. And we have to, and I've always drumming it in and driving it into our directors, et cetera, that we want to be on the cutting edge. We want to be the place they say, hey, wow, you know, Miami-Dade is doing these great things. We want to be on the you know, we want to press the envelope, be on the cutting edge, be the test bed for a lot of this, because then we'll get the benefit of it. but also, we can drive the bugs out of any system that's coming down. So we're looking at a whole bunch of different things, and a lot of it has to do with technology.
Well, great. Well, that's a great segue, Michael. You see a lot of these technologies being deployed across the United States right now. Tests going on with the Smart Cities initiative that you're spearheading for AT&T. Tell us what you're seeing and how people are really utilizing these technologies, and how can Miami-Dade differentiate itself?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we're starting to see is many of the cities are starting to break down the silos, and Miami-Dade County, as really the first county that's this large that we're working with, I think there's a unique opportunity for Miami-Dade. Angel Patisco and yourself and your team, it seems like everybody's communicating well, right? And so you don't have some of the traditional problems that we've seen across the U.S. Where we've got as many silos that we've got to go in and break down, because the goal of what we're trying to do as AT&T is really develop a holistic strategy with cities. And again, there's a lot of smart projects in the U.S., but there's not a lot of smart cities. There's not a lot of smart counties. And we really want to see Miami-Dade be the first smart county, because we feel it's a unique situation as you're trying to provide technology and solutions to improve the lives of citizens and all the cities that you serve, versus when you're in a city and it's just one. And AT&T has, in January, just announced our Smart Cities Framework, and that's what we will be deploying here in Miami-Dade that was announced this morning. And that Smart Cities Framework includes 4 pillars, which of course secure, scalable connectivity options, because all of these solutions that will solve problems, that will provide additional public safety opportunities for cities and counties, that will drive sustainability and drive efficiencies, that will reduce cost. The thread that's weaved amongst all of them is connectivity, and that's got to be first and foremost secure. And so that's one focus for AT&T in the framework. The second pillar is adjacent solutions, which includes security and other technology applications, which frankly gives the startup ecosystem the opportunity to play. And I think there's obviously a lot of momentum around earlier stage companies here in Miami. That's part of the reason this conference was formed, to bring together earlier stage companies and large, more established companies, and then some funding. So we'll be able to engage there. The third pillar of the framework is large ecosystem partners we have that are global, where the technology is proven, so you've got a strong foundation there, and then you can work with the earlier stage companies on top of that. And then the fourth pillar is vertically integrated solutions, which we actually have displayed at our booth. If you get a chance to go by, you can see and touch and feel some of the things that we'll be deploying into the markets like Miami-Dade.
That's great. Mayor, I know that you use a lot of data. You consume a lot of data. I've seen you at the Hurricane Center, disaster preparedness, but also traffic patterns and others. Data and the analytics behind it drive a lot of the actual real use capabilities of technologies. How are you leveraging that, and how do you see that enabling you to make better decisions in the future?
Well, we have to access data for a number of things that we do. We currently use data to do some of the analytics that we do, especially in the police department, where we're trying to prevent crime, or we're trying to get ahead of a criminal, or we're trying to catch a criminal. We use a lot of analytics, and that's all data driven. We're an open data government where all of our data is open. We believe in open data because then it allows for innovation, creativity here using our data, because we do create a lot of it. Look, we're looking at putting. We have some cameras now in certain parks. We want to connect those cameras again to data, which will allow us to identify suspicious packages now, but in the future, envision some facial recognition, so that if a sexual predator is coming into a park where that person shouldn't be, we'll be able to identify that individual and say, hey, that person shouldn't be there, around our children. We've just launched 1,000. We're going to be launching next couple of weeks. We'll actually be putting about 150 body-worn cameras on our police officers. We'll be, at the end of this program, we'll have 1,000 body-worn cameras on our police officers, and we'll be the largest department in the Southeast to have, all of their patrol officers wearing body-worn cameras. But the one thing I just don't want it to be something that documents an incident. I also want eventually we need to have the data so that we can also inform that officer of certain things that are happening around him or her that will make them more efficient. And so all of this is driven by data and also driven by connection to having, really fast connection to the data that then can give us real-time information back. So we're working on all this stuff, and sometimes when I bring these folks in to say, here's what I want, all right, they look at me like, wait a minute, that we haven't even invented that yet. Well, that's okay, all right, but at least I'm telling you what I'm looking at as the mayor and what other mayors are looking in order to protect their city or to make their city better, the quality of life. Data, again, with transportation. We're going to be installing an adaptive transportation, at least with traffic lights system, so that the folks that are using cars we can get more capacity out of the roads that we have. Can't do that without data, because it has to communicate. All of them have to communicate with each other so that it really makes real-time changes on that particular traffic light in order to clear up a jam or to make the system work better. So all of that is data-driven, but it's not only data, it's how you access the data. That's going to be critical, and how you're going to get data back to the individual that has to use that data in order to make an informed decision.
Excellent. Mike, you sit in an interesting place because you've got a lot of experience. You've started up companies straight out of the garage or the living room in some cases. You've worked around economic development, and you've seen the machines that can help build an economy, create jobs, and now you've got the large corporate perspective. So with this new technology that's coming in and really providing an opportunity to change the way that we think about a lot of these subjects, a lot of how we deliver these services, how can this help really grow jobs, grow an ecosystem locally by utilizing this technology and even being part of the growth of it?
Yeah, so I do have a pretty diverse background, I guess, for somebody that's at AT&T. I've worked for large and small software companies. I've started my own and exited, sold that, and now here at AT&T, I've actually started this business inside of AT&T. So it's a startup, if you will, like Connected Car was at one point, with all of the assets and the power that AT&T has behind it to get scale. The interesting thing I've noticed is that smart cities is an ecosystem play. So no one company does it all. And what that does is that creates opportunity for everybody. And you heard Colin Powell this morning, if you had the opportunity to sit in there, and he talked about the country being an area of opportunity. Well, Miami-Dade is an area of opportunity as well from that perspective. Shows like this to pull everybody together, this is an ecosystem play here. Just like smart city solutions are made up of an ecosystem of partners. So it gives an opportunity for a lot of folks to participate. And again, at various different stages and various different types of technology, whether that be security offerings or communications offerings like we provide, or data-driven offerings and visualization applications. So it creates jobs because it allows people to participate, take the open data platform that Miami-Dade may have, access certain pieces of that data that they might want to develop an application around, and from that application will become viable. It'll have a market opportunity, it'll get funded, and then you'll be able to hire people, right? And if you really go a step further and you look at the ecosystem overall and include the research universities and the incubators and innovation centers that are starting to develop that are programmatic, you have an opportunity to leverage that part of the ecosystem as well. And so I think that if you partner closely with the research universities, there's a lot of great IP coming out of there. There's a lot of good ideas. If you add some capital to it, whether that be through corporate sources or whether it be through traditional venture in different stages, and then tie in the county's ability to drive economic development and provide incentives in some cases, you can really help spur that part of the ecosystem and drive jobs for that.
That's great. Miami has got two great research universities here that really are thinking about new patents, new intellectual property that can be converted. And I really do think that people want to be a part of things that are, cutting and bleeding edge. And that helps attract the right people, the right companies to grow things. Mayor, you have interesting challenges every day that include people wanting you to deploy solutions, but at the same time, you look into the future about what the potential technologies are coming that could potentially make what we have today obsolete. So everything from autonomous cars coming down, how we're managing the grid. How do you deal with that, and how do you take in that impact and balance what do we have to do today and then prepare for the future?
It's interesting because really I don't want to be the last person to buy a flip phone,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, I'm privy to a lot of information about what may be coming down in the future, and so a great example of that would be autonomous vehicles. And so I was actually invited to San Francisco with the Secretary of Transportation about autonomous vehicles, and they're coming a lot faster than people think. I mean, if I had told you 5 years ago, hey, there would be some cars riding around California now with over 1 million miles on them that were driving themselves, you would say, no, that's crazy, you can't do that. And I remember seeing these competitions maybe 15 years ago where these cars were on a course and they were crashing into each other and all that. But, I really do believe this is very similar to 1903. In 1903, the Wright brothers first flew. And in 1903, most people were getting around with horses and buggies and all that. And there was this thing called a car that somebody had invented, but really there aren't too many of them. And if you had asked a group of people in 1903, hey, we have these things called cars, all right? How do you think that's going to be integrated? I think most people have said, yeah, in about 30 or 40 years, cars will be the thing, but horses are going to be around for a long time. Nah, by 1915, the horses were gone, I mean, basically, and they were replaced by cars. And so I see the same potential for a new transportation system. The Hyperloop that was demonstrated or talked about here earlier this morning, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with Jose Oliva who probably will be the Speaker of the Florida House in 2018. And he's not interested in investing in 19th century stuff. He wants to invest in 21st century stuff. But right now, some of that stuff is just around the corner. Do we still invest in some older technology, or do we wait? Because the people are very impatient. And sometimes when you wait, hey, yeah, it's going to be here in 2 years, but really it's not here in 10 years. So it's a value judgment we have to make in terms of investing when we're going to jump into a technology. And do we jump into a technology knowing that it's going to be obsolete, but will it be obsolete at the time basically that its shelf life will be expired? And so as mayor, I have to make these decisions every once in a while and balance those two facts out. Jumping in or waiting for something new which you know or think is coming right around the corner.
It's interesting. I think in Mountain View, there were 2 autonomous cars, and the traditional press ran a headline one time, 2 autonomous vehicles almost collide. Same time, the tech press headline was, they didn't collide. It worked. They missed each other. And so these things are, just say they're coming fast. They're here today in a lot of ways.
Well, and we in Miami-Dade County, we want to be the test bed for that. And so we're working with FIU to see if we can launch a autonomous shuttle program inside the campus of FIU. Now look, the U.S. government, and I think the Florida government has seen, and the Department of Transportation has seen the future, and so U.S. Highway Safety Administration has said that a computer is a driver. That's a big thing, all right? Because that means that you don't have to have a driver behind the computer anymore. And in the state of Florida, they've now have laws that allow for the autonomous vehicles. A very, very disruptive technology, but one that could, really improve our quality of life. At the same time, though, there are people and forces that will not want to see it because it's very disruptive and very threatening to their way of life.
Fair enough. Mike, we saw each other in Barcelona not long ago, Mobile World Congress. That's where you were starting to talk a lot about the Smart Cities Initiative. What do you see going on around the world? Who are some of the leaders in deploying smart technologies, whether using it in their schools or to improve the distribution of water and management of water, electricity? What are you seeing, and how can we apply, what some of the best trends in the world are going, either here to Miami or the U.S.?
Yeah, so, globally, it's a little bit different. So if you think about Europe, you've got Europe 2020, and the goal there is to reduce water consumption and loss by 20% and increase renewables by 20%. They're 6 years into that program, and it's heavily funded by the EU. So that helps cities and counties adjust and pilot technologies and then deploy technologies at scale because there's some funding coming from the governments. And then it's a mix of public-private partnerships. So those are some of the things that you're starting to see in Europe. More public-private partnerships pop up that include foundations, include the city or the county or town, and then include the federal body. And so there's an opportunity for us to do more of that here in the United States. You're starting to see the U.S. government get behind things as well with some recent announcement they made around $160 million for smart city projects and then $50 million working with Vulcan and some others around smart transportation offerings. In developing nations, the issues are different, right? It's more about providing people with clean water and water that's drinkable. And so smart city type technologies that can affect that type of change not only is good for health reasons, but obviously time of day when you could take 5 hours and give it back to somebody every day when they don't have to go and get and purify water, right? So you're starting to see that in developing nations. A lot of it is around water. And then, you're also, I think, starting to see more data-driven opportunity, right? And Barcelona is doing a really good job of, they were very early, they had a lot of smart projects going on, but I think they finally start to put a holistic strategy together where they're leveraging some of the work that was done early and really tie it back to being able to take all of the data from all of the different technology solutions that have been implemented across Barcelona and then pull it back into one place so that citizens and city officials can actually make informed decisions using that data in one dashboard, like we've just announced a few weeks back that we were launching.
Very good. Now, Mayor, there's still got to be a lot of traditional infrastructure in place. You still have to have the basic roads and others, large investments at the seaport, the airport, but also we're seeing a lot of technology that's helping improve that experience as well. You talk about how those great assets for the county are really leveraging the technology to build on top of the traditional infrastructure and make it a better experience?
One of the things that pops to mind right away is the traditional infrastructure. We're going to spend about $13 billion over the next 10 to 15 years on our water and sewer. Without water and sewer, you don't have a city. Simple as that. All right. So when people ask me, what's the number one service we provide? Water and sewer. Because without it, there's no city.
Basic health.
That's it, okay? That provides, you can't live without water, and also our health and well-being is predicated on having good, clean, safe, drinking water. And so one of the technologies that we're using is, we've noticed that we're leaking a lot. There's leakage out and there's leakage in. And so on leakage out is we're producing water that then is being leaked out of the pipes, doesn't get to the customer, so we have to produce more water than we have to. Leakage in is the stuff coming back, all right? Because it goes out and then comes back, all right? It comes back a little different than it goes out, but it does come back. And so the leakage in means that there's groundwater leaking into the sewer pipes that we have to treat. So we're treating a lot more water than we have to because of the leakage in. So we're implementing technology that allows us to detect where the leaks are so that we can fix them and that we're much more efficient. It's much more environmentally friendly. Same thing with the infrastructure as we're renewing the infrastructure coming back in. We're doing that also, making sure that it's watertight, but when it's leaking and we know it's leaking inside, that we'll know about it. So. In terms of the airport, we're using technology all the time now. We used to have these long lines when you got off from an international flight. Everybody had to go through Customs and Border Patrol. Now we're using these kiosks that helps us with American citizens. And if you don't really have, there's no suspicion about you, you can bypass a lot of this and be a lot more efficient. We're using technology, obviously, in our seaport in terms of our security. To make sure that, again, everything that goes in and out is secure, doesn't cause a danger to the citizens of Miami-Dade. So technology is integral And new technology is integral to everything that we do. We want to be smarter. We want to do it, faster, cheaper, safer, because really it's not our money. It's our citizens' money, and they want to make sure that we're using every single cent to the best way possible, as optimally as possible. That's what we do, and technology allows us to do that. The technology allows our police officers to be more efficient. Instead of, chasing people, we want to be ahead of them, all right? Technology will allow us in the future, in certain areas where we have incidents of gun violence, to be able to pinpoint exactly where a shot was fired. Technology in the future will allow us to put cameras on that spot. And then eventually technology will allow us to identify the individual, all right? So all of that is things that we're looking at, always constantly trying to, again, press the boundaries of technology to make us much more efficient, to also have our citizens more engaged with us and us more engaged with them, because it has to be a partnership. It can't be a one-way street.
And that
Larry, unfortunately, we are way over time.
Okay.
I have to interrupt, so we're going to need to thank our guests, unfortunately. We're
Okay.
significantly over time, so appreciate it, guys.
Good to know. Thank you.
We're a long way over. Appreciate it.
I guess that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Apologies.